You know, no one really expresses how strange it is to have a house that is suddenly too large for you. One day you realize you've suddenly become the custodian of a museum filled with memories and mismatched furniture, even if the kids are gone and the rooms are quiet. On paper, downsizing seems simple. Pack, sell, and relocate. In actuality, though, it's emotional. What have I just done? It's a combination of freedom, but if you do it well, it can also be one of the most liberating and revitalizing parts of your life. So take a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and let's discuss what actually occurs when you choose to live a lighter, smaller, and possibly even happier lifestyle. First of all, it goes beyond simply having fewer space. It's taking back your time. The obvious things are typically mentioned when discussing relocating to a smaller house. Less clutter, less space, and cheaper costs. They don't speak enough about this, though. It's not really about the mortgage or the walls. It's about regaining your independence and leisure. Waking up on a Saturday morning and discovering that nothing essential has to be fixed, mowed, or scrubbed is one of the finest pleasures after downsizing, I'll tell you. You are no longer under the house's control. It is under your control. Walter, one of my friends, used to make jokes about how his last house was a full-time job that paid horribly. In addition to the roof leaks, constant weeding, and unused cleaning rooms, he consistently lagged behind. After selling it, he relocated to a 2-bedroom home with a tiny porch. I finally have time to sit on that porch I used to dream about, he says now. That's what makes it so beautiful. You can reclaim your weekends, peaceful afternoons, and even naps by downsizing. The one thing you can't get back is time. You're not going to lose your house. You're letting go of an old routine. One remark I came across stated, "I didn't realize how much mental energy my big house was draining until I left it." And I was struck by that. We become so accustomed to the ongoing upkeep that we lose sight of what life would be like without that burden. It's humorous. The initial few weeks you'll find yourself wondering, I should be doing something. No, you shouldn't. You've already completed it. You made the transition to freedom. Secondly, your belongings must also get smaller. However, your life doesn't. The emotional curveball is about to happen. Nobody alerts you to certain things. I'm just moving to a smaller place, you think. Not a huge deal. When you begin packing, you discover that your home has been secretly harboring objects for the past 30 years. Basement, closets, and drawers. They seem to have been conspiring. After my neighbor Ruth's husband passed away, I recall helping her downsize. She laughed as she opened a cabinet in her kitchen. I have 8 casserole dishes. Why is that? Since 2009, I haven't prepared food for a large gathering. The most profound realizations come from those small moments. Of our possessions is a reflection of our past selves. You'll find office file boxes from your full-time job, clothes from events you no longer go to, and equipment for past hobbies you discreetly gave up. And it's all right. Every one of them narrates a tale. You don't have to live with every tale, though. You've experienced them before. Something odd occurs as you begin to let go of things. You feel lighter rather than as though you're losing. It's similar like taking off a winter coat that you've been wearing for too long. At last, you are able to breathe. Furthermore, this does not imply that your life is diminished. The exact opposite. It becomes more acute. You begin devoting more time to the things you utilize, and less time to the things that give you a sense of vitality. It was best expressed by a senior. I came to the realization that my life had not shrunk. I scaled it correctly. That's the ideal way to phrase it. You are modifying the fit rather than cutting down. When I downsized, I had a straightforward guideline. It doesn't come if it doesn't help me, console me, or bring me joy. You don't need 20 mugs when you have a favorite that fits perfectly in your hand, or 5 coats when you wear only one. Living with less is not the goal. It's about having just enough. Know your new rhythm. Number 3. Better layout, one floor, less step. I can't emphasize how important this is. It's not enough to simply make your new house smaller. It needs to be more intelligent for the how you now live. Everybody has a beat. Perhaps you enjoy a cup of coffee and a view out the window as you begin your day. Or perhaps you like to read late at night without tripping over items in the corridor. You can re-establish your daily routine in a room that suits you well when you downsize. Stairs are one thing I've noticed. They were nothing before. A little run up and down. They eventually developed into an intense cardio exercise. And don't bother if you're doing laundry at the same time. Therefore, keep your future self in mind when you're looking at smaller properties. A house with just one story isn't compromising. It's clever planning. Sam, my friend, had to learn this the hard way. He relocated to a comfortable 2-story cottage after selling his large home, believing it would keep him feeling youthful. However, after ascending steps every time he lost his glasses for a year, he declared, "I think I've reached my step count for life." He relocated once more, this time to a 1-bedroom flat, and he now vows never to go vertical again. Both the size and the layout are important. Although an open floor plan may seem fashionable, it can alter your mood if the living area and kitchen flow well, and there is plenty of natural light. Every morning you'll notice it. And now, for something that is seldom discussed: noise. One noisy refrigerator or creaking floorboard can feel like an unwanted flatmate in tiny spaces. So, when you're watching new houses, walk around and listen. Imagine living there on a daily basis. Where am I going to have my morning coffee? Where am I going to read? When I don't want to explain myself to anyone, where will I take a nap? You have your space, if the answers are simple. When I moved into my smaller house, I saw that the kitchen window perfectly captured the morning light. It turned into my favorite area to read, keep a notebook, or simply see the world awakening. That level of contentment has no monetary value. 4. Familiarity and community are more important than you would think. People frequently concentrate on the inside when considering relocating to a smaller house: the square footage, layout, and number of rooms. But, believe me, when I say that the area outside those boundaries has the power to make or ruin your happiness. I've witnessed people find the ideal small home only to discover that it seems empty. They left their folks behind, not because the walls are empty. The barista at the coffee shop was familiar with their name. Every morning, the neighbors waved. The grocery store cashier inquired about their grandchildren. It's simple to underestimate how much our days are shaped by those little familiar faces. Consider Helen, a friend of mine. Because the house there was a great deal, she sold her large family home and relocated to a peaceful suburb 2 towns away. However, she informed me, "It's beautiful, but I feel like I'm living a few months later on the moon." Nobody gave a wave. Nobody spoke. Younger families were always hurrying somewhere in the neighborhood. In the end, she returned to her hometown and moved into a little flat above a bakery. She now makes jokes about hearing gossip every afternoon and smelling fresh bread every morning. She also adores it. That's the problem. Community is more than just the people in your immediate vicinity. It's a link. It's the feeling that you fit in and are a part of life's everyday routine. A retired guy once told me, "I thought I wanted peace and quiet." It dawned on me then that I desired tranquility rather than quiet. And I was struck in the stomach by that. If there isn't laughing coming from down the hall, silence might get lonely. A nice conversation on the porch or a knock on the door. Take a stroll around the area of your prospective new house before you downsize. Go to the grocery store, get coffee nearby, and observe how people converse with one another. Does it feel genuine, friendly, and cozy? Because a fantasy home in seclusion is never as good as a modest home in the appropriate neighborhood. 5. Downsizing is emotionally liberating in addition to being a wise financial move. To be honest, The majority of us first consider downsizing due to financial concerns. Reduced property taxes, utility costs, and mortgage payments. That all sounds quite pleasant. The true surprise, though, is when you notice how much lighter you feel. However, I don't mean only physically from getting rid of things. It's a blessing to have fewer boxes to haul up and down stairs. Emotionally, that is. Entering a house that doesn't require as much of you has a profoundly liberating effect. There are moments when a large house feels like a museum, filled with ghosts, memories, and half-finished projects. You are reminded of a past stage of life around every bend. Relocating to a smaller space is like granting yourself permission to live in the present and quit controlling the past. Arthur, my neighbor, said it just right. He lived in their 4-bedroom house for 3 years, following the death of his wife. It was like living within an echo, he claimed. There was a reminder of the past in every room. She decorated the guest room, the backyard she loved to plant in, the garage he no longer used. He remarked, "It's like I can breathe again." After selling it and relocating to a smaller, sunny condo on the lake, the weight did not accompany me, but the memories did. You know what else takes place? You give up trying to impress people. Nobody expects perfection when you live in a modest house. There could be a crack in the floor. The living room may be too small. And it's all right. You begin to live for comfort rather than for show. Knowing where everything is, being able to clean the entire house in an hour, and not having to worry as much about maintenance or breakage are all pleasures. You start to understand everything. You now have space in your head for the space you gave up. It's humorous. Downsizing is frequently perceived as a sign of surrender. However, every successful senior I've met says the same thing. It was like clicking the reset button on life, but with wisdom this time. And it felt like the best way to start over. 6. Select the location before the furnishings. This one may seem straightforward, but practically everyone makes a mistake. Moving into a smaller house can make you think, "Oh, I'll just bring all my furniture and see what fits." Let me stop you there, my friend. That's how folks wind up with a dining table you have to squeeze around and a sofa obstructing their kitchen doorway. Get to the refrigerator. I once done it. I had my large recliner with me. You know, the one in my new living room that might almost serve as a spacecraft cockpit. It appeared absurd. It resembled attempting to park a bus in a single-car garage. I cherished that chair. In actuality, though, it belonged to a distinct phase of my life. The energy in your house changes when you downsize. You can't expect your old setup to fit your new beat by just making it smaller. Your current lifestyle must be reflected in the furniture. June, a woman I know, did this really well. She lived in her empty new flat for a week, without purchasing any furniture. Reading, eating, she moved around, determining where the afternoon light fell, which was where she naturally preferred to sit. Then she only purchased items that suited her habits. A tall lamp beside her favorite reading position, a love seat in place of a complete couch, and a smaller circular table for her morning coffee. And I will never forget what she said. "Instead of building my house around my past, I built it around my present." Excellent. Consider your current lifestyle before selecting your next residence. Is an 8-seat dining table really necessary? Most likely not, unless you intend to adopt a football team. Perhaps you would prefer a tiny desk for writing letters or solving crossword puzzles, or a comfortable chair near the window. This is a humorous way to look at it. Furniture and friends are similar. Some are lifelong companions. Some are ideal for a certain time of year. Some, well, weren't really your type in the first place. 7. Fine. Be emotionally prepared for less spaces and empty walls. Now, let me tell you about something that not enough people are alerting you to. It can feel silent when you first enter your smaller home, especially after living in a large, nostalgic home for years. Too quiet. It feels like you're living inside a shoebox that hasn't been filled with life yet. That's typical. Every single downsizing individual I've spoken to says the same thing. The initial days are peculiar. It's different, but not horrible. There is nothing on the walls. The reverberations are more intense. You may even find yourself absent. Trivial things like the sound of the wind blowing through your large living room window, or the way your old kitchen floor creaked in one particular location. On the first night after moving in, my buddy Roger told me he felt like a visitor in someone else's home as he stood in his new living room surrounded by boxes. However, after 2 weeks, he chuckled and remarked, "Now I can't imagine living anywhere else." It turns out that some stories were all the walls needed. And that's precisely it. Because of their vastness, homes don't feel warm. Because of what you do to them, they feel warm. Your favorite picture will eventually be up on that blank wall. Your laughter will soon take the place of that echo. The kettle boiling in the morning is your soundtrack. Therefore, if it initially feels a little barren, don't panic. That isn't empty. That is a possibility. It's a fresh start. Consider it similar to inhaling deeply before beginning a new chapter. Here's a humorous fact as well. Once you settle in, smaller homes can actually help you feel more comfortable. The fact that everything is accessible is reassuring. You begin to understand that having a lot of rooms isn't what makes a place a home. It's about the number of memories you create and the ones you keep. Give it some time. Allow your new area to expand around you. After you've unloaded the boxes and spilt your first cup of coffee on the new floor, the warmth appears. At that point, it formally becomes yours. 8. Make deliberate use of your storage. All right, let's discuss storage now. Every downsizing narrative has a secret villain and hero. You see, you can get away with hiding things in a large home. You have basements that serve as time capsules and closets big enough to house a small army. However, every inch counts once you get smaller. Storage is becoming a lifestyle decision rather than a passing idea. It won't take long for you to realize that clutter in a tiny area not only looks unpleasant, but also feels bad. The energy is clogged. One pile of mail may start to feel like it's criticizing you in a tiny house, I promise. Making your storage deliberate is the key. Consider it less as a place where, why am I keeping this, and should I put this? It was best described by my buddy Doris. My basement used to be well stocked with everything I might need in the future. Then I understood that someday never materialized. She became inventive as a result of her downsizing. She made use of multi-purpose furniture, under-bed storage bins, and even a coffee table with secret compartments. However, she only retained what she really used. She felt no shame about letting go of the rest. That's the secret. Avoid attempting to adopt outdated storage practices in your new life. You're not in charge of a museum. You don't have to keep anything from your history. You should use what you have for the now. That also applies to your timetable. Actually, I make use of a senior. I can keep track of everything, including appointments and invoices, without the paper clutter thanks to this user-friendly digital planner. Keeping organized in a smaller space has been revolutionary. If you'd like to check it out, I'll post the link in the comments section. It also doesn't have to be dull. If you keep items wisely, a small house can nevertheless have a lovely appearance. Purchase some well-fitting shelves, a few lovely baskets, and perhaps a chest that can be used as a bench. Your house feels twice as large when everything has a place. I used to joke that I learned 2 things by moving smaller. First of all, I have far too many coffee mugs. Furthermore, storage is merely an arrangement with a little creativity. You won't miss your old attic once you get the hang of it. 9. Perfection is inferior to flexibility. Here's a fact that I discovered the hard way. Seldom do things go exactly as planned when you move into a smaller space. It's possible that the sofa you believed would fit wonderfully would appear uncomfortable. There may be a dog in the peaceful neighborhood that barks at clouds. It's possible that the kitchen counter is a little too tiny for your well-known Sunday pancakes. And that's acceptable because adaptability, not perfection, is what life and downsizing are all about. I recall my friend George selling his large house and purchasing a lovely tiny cottage. Up until the first winter, when he found the bathroom heater was roughly as useful in a snowfall as a candle. Instead of freaking out, he bought a tiny space heater, smiled, and began calling winter spa season. He now boasts about having a sauna experience every morning. That's the mindset that counts. You begin to appreciate your house more when you view flaws as peculiarities rather than deal breakers. It becomes genuine and intimate. You learn flexibility in a smaller house. Making things work begins to bring you joy. You turn that uncomfortable corner to a reading nook. The small kitchen. It turns out that you have to clean while cooking, which isn't really a bad habit. It's freeing to stop striving for perfection due to the weight of perfection. It keeps you comparing, worrying, and making adjustments. Conversely, flexibility feels light. Yeah, the tap drips a little, but the sunset view from the porch more than makes up for it, the statement reads. Therefore, consider it an opportunity to be innovative when things don't go exactly as planned. Recall that perfection is not the goal of this stage of life. It's all about being yourself. Appreciate the additional life you are bringing into the world. The best part of it all, at last. Closing doors is not the goal of downsizing. It's about creating new ones. Realizing that a smaller area equates to a larger existence has a subtle power. Chores don't bind you. You're not buried beneath belongings. You also don't get lost in places you never go. You've made room to live. My favorite tale comes from Harold, a man who moved into a one-bedroom flat close to the ocean after selling his family's house. 6 months later, he was busier than ever, volunteering at a nearby animal shelter, joining a walking group, and even taking ukulele lessons. His children had assumed he would be lonely. He continued, "Funny thing, I thought I was downsizing my life, but I ended up upgrading it." That's the key. You begin to rediscover yourself when you are freed from the constraints of a large home and never-ending obligation. You can travel, explore new interests, make new friends, or simply take pleasure in a peaceful morning without feeling guilty. And you ought to rejoice over that. Do a little housewarming for yourself. Even if it's just you, a satisfying supper and the background music is my favorite. Cheers to the bravery required to make a new beginning. That's a moment you deserve. Since this isn't actually the end of anything, it's the start of a more straightforward and fulfilling way of living. More life has been exchanged for more space. And what a fantastic offer it is. Therefore, grin and respond, "Not really," when someone asks if you miss your large old house. The nicest portions were with me. You see, shrinking doesn't mean giving up. It has to do with leveling up. Space is not being lost. You're getting time, tranquilly, and possibly even a little adventure. Indeed, there will be times when you long for the former location. However, there's something lovely about entering a house that at last represents who you are today rather than who you were 30 years ago. So hang that final photo, relax, and take in the silence. You deserve it. Additionally, please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you thought this was helpful or made you smile. We'll be sending you more real-life tales and advice soon.